welcome everybody to come out tonight to learn a little bit more about the Lexington and Payne Combined Sewer Overflow Basin Project. This is what we call our orientation meeting. I'd like to recognize Councilman Bill Hollander here is with us this evening, and welcome, Councilman. So we're here tonight to talk about this project that's coming up in this area. It's at the very early design stages, and on this cold winter night, I appreciate this is a good turnout tonight. I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll all learn some things this evening. I would remind you that we're taping this for Metro TV. You've been handed note cards to write down questions, so if you refrain from interrupting during the presentation while we're taping, we will stay here and answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. If you forget, there'll be people in the back. I might just say raise your hand, and then you can hand in that card during the presentation, or you can hold them till the end and we'll ask for them. So you will have plenty of time this evening to get questions answered. So when I'm going through the presentation, if you think of something, you think you might forget it, just jot down a note, and then we'll address that at the end. So thank you very much. All right, let's get going. And if you could turn off your cell phones as well, that would be helpful while we're taping this presentation. All right, tonight we're going to be talking about an introduction to this basin that's in this neighborhood area. We'll talk about the general project location, the schedule, overview of the project phases and roles, overflows of untreated sewage, how they impact the community, us at large, how the sewer system evolved to how it is today, how can we address or fix the problem, what can we do as residents, and what MSD is doing as an entity here. How are we paying for this project, and what are the next steps as we move forward in this project design. Here's a map of some of the larger basins. This type of project is not unique to this neighborhood. We've got overflows throughout the community, and we'll go about the history of that, but you can see there are other basins planned throughout the community. We're talking about this one right here at Lexington and Payne. But again, we're not singling this area out. We'll talk about why they're located where they're located, but you can see it's a countywide problem, primarily along the creeks and streams. Kind of zoom in from that map that we just looked at. Here's a general larger overview of the project area. Those red dots are where CSOs, combined sewer overflows, are located, and we'll talk about the definition of that in a moment. This project that we're talking about tonight, again in the just beginning of the design phase, we haven't really started that yet, is going to store about 13.7 million gallons of overflow, which is diluted rainwater, stormwater that's diluted with sanitary sewage during rain events. The basin will be underground and covered. It addresses those 9 CSO locations that were on the map previously. And the level of control, meaning we had to pick a design year, which is 2001. We took that typical year. So typically that we would have 380 overflows of sewage when it rains into Beargrass Creek Channel. But we've designed this basin such that for that same design year, there would be 0 overflows. And that amounts to about 211 million gallons of sewage, combined sewer overflows, that are eliminated from Beargrass Channel on the typical design year. The graphic that you see here describes MSD's process as we're doing public outreach to talk about these major projects that are going throughout the county. The first phase, and we'll talk about what the project phase is and what MSD's role and what you as a citizen's role would be. So on the orientation meeting, which we're here tonight for, it's to provide background and information about large projects and for the citizens to understand roles and responsibilities, MSDs and us as individuals. The next phase in our major projects rolling out for public input would be the conceptual design. That's where MSD would come out. We would present concept options, and we would gather ideas and preferences from the community and the neighborhood where the basin or the project is located. The third public meeting would be the advanced design. We will come back with some design options after hearing in the conceptual design phase input from the public. We'll come back and present some conceptual design options that we can look at and again take public input on for ideas and preferences at that time. At that time, we'll go to the final construction or final design phase, and we'll come back for the last public meeting, which will be prior to construction. At that point, we'll announce when the construction begins, who the contractor is, who are contacts with MSD and the contractor, who do you call if you have a problem, that type of thing. And the role then of the public would be to understand what the process would be for contacting us if there's any issues or where to get information for the project. So tonight we're talking about, this is an orientation for the Lexington and Payne CSO storage basin. So this is an overview of, basically we're going to say there's a project in this neighborhood. We'll talk a little bit about it. We know what the design parameters are, how big it is, where the CSOs are that we're gathering from the, keeping from sewage going into the channel. So we'll provide some background and information about why are we here? Why do these projects have to exist? What is MSD doing? Why do they have to do this? And then understand, again, the public's roles and responsibilities. So we're still developing concepts for this basin, so we're not there yet. So just kind of the overall project schedule, tonight we're talking about just the background of why we're here and to introduce the project. The design of this project will be completed by December of this year. The construction will begin in the spring of next year or summer of next year. But we have to be done with the project by our court order or the agreed to integrated overflow abatement plan by December 31 of 2020. Hopefully we'll be done long before that. So for more information to give input, we'll come back in a few months and we'll talk about some information we've taken today, and we will have gone into some conceptual designs and we'll be able to present that in the spring. So did everybody get one of these when you came in? It's the fun part of the evening, audience participation. So we're going to use these to take some online polling. We're going to get some demographic information from our audience, and later on in the presentation we'll get some input from you about what we've talked about tonight. And if you know anyone that's not able to attend tonight, this presentation will be up online in a few days, and they can go online to MSD, and these questions that we're talking about tonight, they'll have opportunity to make their own input. So if they couldn't come out tonight because of the weather or a schedule conflict, this will be up for some period of time because we do want as much public input as we can get, and we'll poll all that data. All right, this is the icebreaker. Let's use our clickers. This is going to be a little exercise. What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie? Can't imagine why we'd pick that question. It has nothing to do with the basin tonight, but at least we'll get used to using the clickers. We think we've got them all. Thin Mints, tag-alongs, rah-rah. So press the number on your clicker associated with your favorite Girl Scout cookie. Everybody doing that? You should have a green light that comes on when you're pushing the button. Is that right? Oh, green. So do we have 22 responses? Anybody not voted yet? All right. All right. Thin Mints wins the evening. All right, now you're proficient at operating clickers, so we'll go on with our questions here. How young are you? If you could give us that information, just click the number that corresponds to your age range. So we've got 14 responses. We need a few more. I think that covers most of the age range, you know. We don't have a number 9 up there. All right, I'm going to close the polling here in just a second. All right.
Hit them one more time, and the window didn't open right away. So.
Okay, one more time. You can, if you hit a number again, it'll just record the latest one that you pushed.
They won't make you twice as old.
All right, there's 22 responses. Okay, let's see here. All right, so most of us are in the 40 to 49. I said us, not me. No, it's not true. We're all kind of evenly dispersed there. All right. Just for information purposes, what's our mix of male and female?
There it goes.
Yeah, push them again. It may not have opened when you first hit the button. There you go. All right. All right. All right, now the next few questions are going to be about where do you live, work, and spend your day. So if you look at this map and try to realize or understand where we're talking about. So if you're inside of Chestnut Street, Barrett Avenue, and Lexington, that's Area 1. If you're just a couple blocks outside that, Main Street, Washington, down to Payne Street, Broadway, Breckenridge, Clay, that's Area 2, and then everything else will be Area 3. If you're missing it by a block, don't worry about it. We'll just be close. This is like shotguns and hand grenades, I guess, just to be close. All right, where do you live? Area 1, 2, or outside those areas. All right. Most people live in Area 1. Where do you operate a business? It's the same geographic area. Area 1, Area 2, 3, or NA. I don't operate a business. I think one more response. Could you hit it one more time? There we go. All right. So thank you for that. Where do you spend your days? Same graphical area. That could be if you work in that area. If you don't work, where do you play or spend your time? Most of the days. All right, polling is open. A couple more responses. Hit your buttons again, please. Okay, here we go. How did you hear about this meeting? You can pick up to 3. You can punch 4 numbers, but the last 3 will be the ones that are recorded. So pick 3 up to 3 that tells us how you heard about this meeting. We like it when people come to these meetings, so the best way we can find out how you've heard about these is to ask. All right? All right, seems like a pretty good mix there. How would you like to learn about us? You can pick up to 4. You can hit 5, but we'll just record the last 4. We're always looking for ways to improve reaching out to get attendance at these meetings. I think we need, there we go. All right. Keep a hold of these clickers. We'll have some more questions more about the project itself in just a little bit, but now let's get into the presentation. Our next point we'll come to is overflows of untreated sewage. In Louisville, we're blessed with an abundance of creeks and streams. These are resources that contribute greatly to the quality of life in our community. We all enjoy that. And as a result of work that MSD and others have done over the years, for the most part, the rivers and streams are cleaner than they have been in the last 100 years, since Louisville became a major city on the Ohio River. Most of the time, the water quality is good, and we can enjoy those and safe for various types of recreation. But what you may not know, however, is when it rains, that sanitary sewer pipes fill up with rainwater and cause overflows in the system. This happens to be along Beargrass Creek. It's a manhole that is blown during a storm event. This can happen along streams and rivers, and does. What you may not know is that it also happens in streets. This is down close to U of L. So in a rain event, our system can overflow, and that's not just rainwater that's coming out of the system, that's sewage and rainwater. It can come into roadways, backyards, basements, as well as the streams that we just spoke about. After an event, a rain event, this is what leaves behind. Anything that went down a sink or toilet or shower can end up not in the sewer system, not at the plant, but in the stream. And as a result of this, dogs can get out and play with that, come into your house, and bacteria, germs can affect kids if kids are out playing that, or the dog can bring them back into the house if they've been out playing in the stream. So we don't want that in our community. It's not only a visual impediment, but primarily it's a health impediment. So we want the health of our streams and the health of our public health as well. That's what we're addressing. In that picture that is showed, all of these locations, these dots on the screen, represent either a combined sewer overflow or a sanitary sewer overflow. And all that means is when it rains, sewage has left the system because it's been overwhelmed by rainwater with the sewage. So throughout the county, we have this, and these are primarily along streams, could be in roads, but you can see it's throughout the county, and there's over 300 of them. So what's the history of this? What's the public health and safety mandate of this? In 2003, the EPA and MSD started talking about what can we do to improve the quality of our streams and our collection system. In 2005, we entered into a consent decree, and that is that we agreed by court order to do some things to fix the system. MSD, through an effort of public stakeholders, some of whom are even here tonight, came up with a plan, and we submitted a plan in 2008. It was an $850 million plan to address all of those CSOs in our system. In 2009, the federal EPA and the state of Kentucky approved that plan. It's called the Integrated Overflow Abatement Plan. That was for a whole suite of projects to address what we've started talking about. In that plan, all of those combined sewer overflows within basically the Waterston Expressway, which is where the combined sewers in the city are, needs to be complete by the year 2020. And then the rest of the system outside of the Waterston, the separate sanitary sewer system, needs to be complete by 2024. These are deadlines that have been agreed to. It's a court order. It's agreed. It's got the weight of the EPA and the federal court system. There are fines if we don't meet these goals and these deadlines. So what's the history? How did we get to this point? That would be a great question. You understand what happened when Louisville was founded and what's happened since then. So let's go back before the first settler was here. Undeveloped land and streams. There's the Ohio River. Looked pretty clean. But you can see here that here's Beargrass Creek. This is what, about the time, this is a map of 1796. Beargrass Creek is, you notice to the west, swampy lands. It's the beginning of development right here. So when building started occurring in an area that was swampy and poorly drained, Louisville continued to grow. There was no sanitary system to handle the wastewater or no storm system to handle the storm sewer. Everything just flowed to the streams. It went to the streets, and then when it rained, it would just be washed out to the streams and ultimately the Ohio River. So here's a picture from the 1800s of somewhere in downtown Louisville, and you can see what an awful mess it would be to live in those conditions when it rained. No system. So as a result of that, public health suffered. We had numerous epidemics of cholera and typhoid during this time. And you can see why. All that filth is out there for contact with pets, humans. So let's get your clickers out. We'll ask a couple questions here. When were the first sewers built in Louisville? When do you think? At the founding of the city, before 1850, the beginning of the 20th century, or during the Depression? All right, people think at the beginning of the 20th century. Sewers were built in Louisville by 1850, the beginning of the work. This is obviously later than that, but in 1850 was when sewers first started to be constructed in Louisville. We continued to build sewers, larger and bigger sewers. That's the southwestern outfall. That's the backbone of our drainage system that empties out into the Ohio River. It's still in service today. You can see you could fit a locomotive inside that pipe system. The only problem is this did remove the waste from the downtown streets and the developed areas, but guess where did it go? Went to the Ohio River, to Beargrass Creek, to the Ohio River. Would you want to live in Evansville after a rain event? Here we are in Louisville. Cincinnati had the same thing. The Ohio River was flowing from Cincinnati down to us. So at the time, we were getting away from the downtown streets, but we're just polluting the larger streams. You know, we learned that everybody lives downstream from somebody else, so we have to do something better than this. So the Louisville Water Company was formed in 1860. Running water started to become available to homes, so you can see water lines are being connected. So that meant more water coming into the house. Where is that going to go? So they started collecting the water that was going into the house and come back into those storm systems that were built going out to the Ohio River. So that was one thing that was done. We started collecting from the houses the new water that was coming in from the water company, again, being emptied into the Ohio River. In which decade did Louisville begin to treat sewage? 1900, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. And recall, up to this point, we're just sending it into the big pipe out to the river. So when did we start to begin to treat sewage? Okay, looks like a lot of us think the 1930s. It was not, so again, we'll go back to that slide. The wastewater lines were collected, connected, and going out to the stream. It wasn't until 1958, in the 50s, that the first wastewater treatment plant was constructed in Louisville. So you remember we had all the water was collected and went out to the stream, Beargrass or the Ohio River, when it rained. So when we first started doing treatment, what we did was we built weirs in those larger pipes, had to build a deeper pipe to send it to the plant, so that in dry weather, that lower amount of flow would fall into here, and so it was just the raw sewage that was going to the plant during dry weather. Then when it rained and the system was overwhelmed, that's when it was diluted and sent into the Ohio River. That kept the raw sewage from going straight into the Ohio River. That went to treatment, but then during rain events, it overflowed. Combined sewer overflows is what we call that. And there's a picture of what one looks like. Anybody know how much rain it takes to cause this condition? That's sewage and rainwater coming into Beargrass Creek. As little as blank inches of rainfall can cause an overflow. A tenth, a half, 1 inch, 2 inches, 5 inches of rain before we get overflows out of the system. All right, we think a half an inch. The answer is a tenth of an inch. With as little as a tenth of an inch of rain, water and sewage leaves the system untreated. So once the treatment plant was built in 1958, laws were passed that no more combined sewers could be built. So we had to build a separate system for the sewers and the storm drains. But that was before there were a lot of standards developed. So we were separating it, but that still was not up to the technology that we have today. It wasn't until 1985 that MSD began to expanded its service area and started taking over systems further out in the county that had been built without standards prior to 1985. These old separate systems, which again designed prior to today's standards and today's material qualities, can have overflows during rain events. And projects are underway to address these problems as well. MSD is responsible for the sewer system up to the foundation of the building where it's connected, or to the easement of right-of-way, or MSD only works in the main sewers in the middle of the street. What do you think about that? Use your clickers. All right. The easement or right-of-way, that's correct. That's the public side. The MSD side is to the easement or right-of-way line. So problems that we take care of and have responsibility for with MSD is the illicit stormwater connections into a sewer line, poor materials where the sewer is not sound, or root infiltration into old pipes. Those are, in easements or right-of-way, MSD's responsibility. However, on the private side, again, outside of the right-of-way or easement, is the homeowner's responsibility, not MSD's. So with that, downspouts have been connected to sanitary sewer. Well, what's in a downspout? That's rainwater during that rain event that's coming into a system that gets overwhelmed. Sump pumps are connected to sanitary sewer. The sump pump is just collecting groundwater from around your foundation. So some people are pumping that into the sewer system, which is illegal again. An area drain, a yard drain connected to the sanitary sewer. And again, roots in a failed system on site as well. The problems on the private side are just as severe as the ones that are in the public right-of-way. And MSD can't legally do anything to address those on the private side. That's the homeowner's responsibility. But we are here, we have some programs that can help with some of those. And another example of this pipe, people say, well, how could that pipe be cracked? If you think of a lot of these pipes built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s was terracotta clay pipe, kind of like your clay pots that you have plants in. And what happens when they dry out, or what happens when they age, they crack. Well, when those clay pipes crack, then roots can get in there, groundwater gets in there, the cracks can expand, and again, that's allowing non-sewage water, groundwater or rainwater to get into the system and overwhelm it. So the range of overflows that we see in the separate sanitary system include large overflows on streams, such as this, can be out in the streets, can back up into basements. This is a basement full of sewage. If this happens because of a failure on MSD's side, we take care of that. We'll take steps to address that problem. However, sometimes this happens because of insufficient materials or workmanship on the private side, and that's not MSD's responsibility. It's on your side of the right-of-way line. So how can we fix this problem? If the sewer line from your property to the edge of the right-of-way fails, it's your responsibility, and you'll want to fix that because you don't want sewage in your basement. It can be expensive, and so we have a program that can help address that problem. We have an MSD sanitary sewer line replacement program. There's a number you can call. So that work that's failing out, whoops, let me back up here, failing out in the yard, we have a too big. This area that's the homeowner's responsibility, we have a program that can assist with that. So we are sensitive to that cost. What should I avoid when using when it's raining? So based on what we said about rainfall and bad pipes allowing rainwater, groundwater into the system, what could I avoid using when it's raining? Things that we can do as individuals. All of the above. That's right. But when it's raining, the things that you can control is, do I need to run my dishwasher when it's raining? You don't have to. So if you could wait till after the storm event, that would be good, or washing machines. All those things would be good if you could, but some of those things you can't help but do. But things that you can have control over, the sewers are full when it's raining, so anything that you can keep from adding to it and overwhelming the system would be helpful. Things that we can do individually. I should avoid flushing wipes, even if they say they are green, flushable, biodegradable, on sale, not tested on pets, or all the above. Again, we're going through things that I can do individually as a homeowner or a resident. All of the above. Here's a picture of a clogged pump. Things that get flushed down the sewer go down to the sewer system, eventually to a pump somewhere. Things that can cause maintenance problems and failures could be then cause backups as well. So dental floss, Q-tips, hair, diapers, flushable wipes, hygiene products. All these accumulated pumps can cause problems. So those are things that should go in the trash instead of down the sink or the sewer. And there's a close-up of just pulling up some rags out of a pump. So that pump has failed. Someone may have had a backup, or there might be a combined sewer overflow or sanitary sewer overflow at this pump station. I should always put fats, oils, and greases on my garden in the trash, down the garbage disposal, in my neighbor's garden, or in my sink. Now, it's obviously some of these are tongue-in-cheek. But we're trying to learn, what can I do as an individual to alleviate this problem or to help? All right, everybody voted? In the trash, that's right. Not down the drain. It may be liquid when you first put it in the drain, but by the time it reaches 55-degree ground temperature, it's going to solidify again in the pipe. So that's what that looks like. What do you think the capacity of that pipe is once grease has gone down there? Looks like it's less than half to me. So put hot grease in a metal container, let it cool, and then put it in the trash. My sump pump at my house should discharge to a storm sewer, to my yard, to my sanitary sewer, or on the sidewalk. To my yard, that's right. Onto the grass or plants. One of the largest sources of groundwater entering our sanitary sewer system is from sump pumps. The sump pump discharge from 8 homes on a block can take up the capacity of that sanitary sewer that would normally handle 200 homes of just sanitary sewage. So if you have 8 houses with sump pumps discharging into a pipe, it's taking up the capacity of 200 homes that could be served. So think about that. So it's very important that we get sump pumps disconnected from the system. We have a plumbing modification program. Again, 100% reimbursement for this. So if you have a sump pump that's connected to the sanitary sewer, we can assist with getting that disconnected, and it needs to be discharged outlet to the ground. Rainwater from my downspout should not be routed where? Onto my garden, into a rain barrel, onto the lawn, into landscaping, into my sanitary sewer. All right, everybody voted? Excellent. I must be a pretty good teacher tonight. I like it. You're a smart class is what I have. All right, so what can I do? Turn downspouts onto the ground. I can capture rain from downspouts for use in watering my garden or landscaping. Do that with rain barrels or rain gardens. MSD will reimburse up to $100 per disconnected downspout. Again, do not connect downspouts to the sanitary sewer. A lot of times you'll see downspouts that go right into a pipe in the ground. You'll see it. That pipe, more often than not, empties into a sanitary sewer somewhere. So we need to get those downspouts disconnected from the underground sanitary sewer system. Okay, so that's things that we can do as individuals. Now, what's MSD doing for these problems in the public right-of-way and in the easements? Again, I talked about these are community-wide sewer overflows, not just in one particular neighborhood, and there are community-wide solutions that we're looking at. As again, we've cost it out when we created the integrated overflow abatement plan, that $850 million has costed the community. These are dollars that we need to spend wisely. We're in our plan, again, we're in the combined sewer system projects. That's what we're doing right now. We're going to talk about that project tonight in this area. And then again, by 2024, we need to address all the separate sanitary sewer system projects. So a lot of these basins that you hear about in the community that you've heard about, we need to have those done by 2020. And they have different ones of them have different deadlines, but they all need to be complete by 2020. So how do we control sewage overflows? There's a couple different ways. One is you can control the source. We've talked about downspout disconnections, sump pump disconnections, sewer rehabilitation. Keep the water out of the sewer before it ever gets to MSD, before it ever gets to the street. That's one way to alleviate the overwhelming of the sewers. The other is to build gray infrastructure projects, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Those are pipeline projects, pump station expansions, or wastewater treatment plant expansions, or storage basins. How are we paying for these projects? As I said earlier, this is an $850 million program to address all of these overflow issues. We've worked hard to develop an approach and schedule to address all of these, and it spreads the cost over several years. But I can tell you that there's no free money. It's not money that comes from Washington, D.C. or from overseas. It's ratepayers right here in our community that are paying for this. It's not taxpayers out in the state of Kentucky. It's all of us that use the system here. So when we're talking about this cost, that's what I want us to all think about is it's coming out of all of our pockets, and it goes through our rates. We charge fees for services, and we have to pay for everything that we do. And that's how we get our revenues, through fees for services. What do you think the average cost per mile to fix sewer overflow problems in southeastern U.S. cities? Varies from $100 to $500, $500 to $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, $200,000 to $2 million, or no one knows. The cost per mile to fix sewer overflow systems in the southeast United States. What's your guess? All right. 200,000 to 2 million. That's right. If you look at these cities from Louisville to Atlanta, Louisville being the most cost effective, a little over 200,000 per mile, Atlanta being pushing close to $2 million per mile. You can see it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. We are a little ahead of the curve of everybody else in our cost, but still it's a very expensive proposition to do this. We realize that this means increased fees. Again, I heard about all the ratepayers are paying for this. So in addition to the other programs that I've talked about, MSD has a plan that assists senior citizens who meet the criteria that we've listed here. 65 years of age or older, have an annual household gross income of $35,000 or less, and are connected to MSD sewers. If you call that number, we can assist you if you meet those requirements. All right, what's the next steps for this project and for us? We're beginning the conceptual project design, so we call this meeting the conceptual design meeting. We will have future meetings. We'll come back in the spring, talk about some things that we've gathered information from you here in a few minutes tonight about the project. We'll be presenting some things there and asking some more questions. Then we'll come back in the fall for the advanced design. We will have taken the information that we've heard from the conceptual design meeting, incorporated that, come back and present some things to have public input on again. And each of those meetings will be followed up. If you can't attend those, the presentations will be online for a few weeks or for several weeks, and we'll have other input. People can input on the same presentation. You don't have to be at the public meeting. We'd love for you to come, but if you can't make it, there will still be opportunities for public input through the use of the internet. Then in the summer of next year, 2017, we'll have what's called our Part in Our Dust meeting. The final design will be complete. We will have bid the project. We'll know the name of the contractor. We'll have the contact information. So before ground is broken, we'll come out and have another public meeting. We anticipate starting construction on this project summer of 2017 and completion by spring of 2020. The consent decree deadline, again, is December 31st of 2020. And we all know it rains in Louisville, it snows in the wintertime, so we allow a little cushion there so that we meet our consent decree deadline. If we don't meet the deadline, there are fines that are levied by the EPA. Again, the fine fairy does not come and pay those fines for us. It comes out of our rates. So we need to avoid incurring those fines so that our rates don't arbitrarily go up for that reason. So talk about, again, conceptual. I don't have a lot of detail about the project tonight, but we are interested for you all here tonight and for those people online that will take this survey, what types of considerations are most important to you? These are very general. These are not project specific at this point. So you can vote for up to 3 on this: proximity to residences, environmental mitigation, area for public use, trees, above ground structure appearance, or parking. So we've populated this with some things we'd like to hear what are most important to you, and you can vote for up to 3. If you push 4 buttons, we'll get the last 3 is what's going to be polled. All right. All right. So we'll take that information and the information from online polling, and we'll come back at the next presentation on the conceptual design meeting and then talk about things that we've heard. At this point, we pre-populated that slide with some ideas and wanted to get your input on that. But at this point, we'll take some comments from the audience of anything that wasn't listed on the previous slide, other things that might be of interest to you. And we'll put these on here, and that will be something we can vote on this evening or poll on this evening, and also for the internet audience that they can poll on. So anybody have any other things that would be just, again, you don't have any project detail yet, but what types of things would be of interest to you that we haven't talked about?
Sort of like a digital flip chart, like a list of.
Yes, sir.
Research. Well, on the north side of I-64, at the bottom of the cliffs of the Clifton neighborhood, there is a valley. It's the lowest point in the Clifton neighborhood. It runs from Grinstead to Payne Street. It's kind of an elongated bowl, and it's got CSOs 125, 126, and 144 all are there in that area from the watershed. And my question, or my suggestion would be, is if for CSOs 144, 126, and 125, if MSD could build a water detention basin, almost parallel to I-64, so as to collect the water from those 3 CSOs, but more importantly, have it as a covered detention basin, and have a walking path on top of it. That way it would connect Grinstead to Payne Street at Stoll. But as you are familiar, I'm sure, Crescent Hill, or the condos, the Crescent Spring condos are at the very bottom of the area where Peterson is, and they were built in the 1980s. It's right now it's where that big overflow is. You have that wonderful shot Well, every time we have a major rain event, that condo association, that condo is filled with raw sewage and their swimming pool and their tennis court. So my suggestion would be to create a water detention basin from Grinstead to Stoll, parallel to I-64 on the north side. That would be a water detention basin for those 3 CSOs.
Okay, you've made a comment about a very specific location.
Yes.
At this point in the conceptual, we're asking about things like trees, proximity to houses, the 30,000 foot level. We're happy to talk to you after this presentation about specifics on a specific one, but that's a level of detail that we're trying to be a little bit higher level than that right here.
We put some thought into this.
Okay, I understand. Happy to address it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm not really sure what you guys are, I know there's somewhere back on that property, there's something gonna happen,
That's about what we know so far.
okay? So, how we see it, how it looks, we can't sit here and make comments until we know what kind of designs that you would have as standard designs for this, what the normal building practices would be for that, in order to comment on what we'd like to see around that.
Right, and when we come back, that'll be more clear, and I realize it's very early to, we're not asking for comment because we haven't shown anything, just what's important to you. Appearances, it sounds like appearance would be important to you. Those types of high-level aesthetic or technical things that you want to throw out, and I've heard, what does it look like? Okay, that's appearance. Those types of,
Property you're gonna use,
okay,
that's a question. I can't comment till I know that.
right, and when we come back, we'll be able to get, those are types of comments that we're still going to get from you. It's a little early to get that, so we will get to those. Again, we're backing up at 30,000 feet here. Just in general, just throw things out, general topics of what might be important to you. We'll try to address some or come back with more details, but understand there's nothing for you to really comment or critique right now. Just what types of things are important to you? Yes, ma'am.
That the tank be underground. I think you said that it would be underground, but I want it to be up there. so
Okay.
it would be underground.
We prefer it to be underground.
Right, because earlier there was something about the appearance of an above-the-ground tank, but you had said it would be underground, so
Right.
that was confusing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Have you purchased the property? If not, when do you plan on purchasing the property? And are you actually going to purchase the property?
Okay, that's the type of thing I'd like on a question card. We'll address those questions at the end. This is just, when we're thinking about the design, whether it's on a particular property that we know about or not, just in general, what kind of things, broad categories could we consider?
How will it affect the floodplains and floodways in the area?
Okay, how it affects, that's it, so we can come back and address those types of things. Yes, sir.
Sufficient distance away from Fairgrass Creek.
Okay. Distance from the stream.
If I can spell, would do great.
Yes, sir.
Would the top of the underground unit be able to be used for the public good as a park or a recreation area?
Okay. Would we want to say that more proactively? You would like to see that? Or is it just a question at this point?
No, I'm suggesting we use the top of it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Odor
Okay.
from having the sewage that's collecting in these
Okay.
basins.
Odor issues. Paul?
This might be part of number 7, but maybe incorporating as part of the Fairgrass Creek Greenway in this.
Yes, sir.
How much noise do you anticipate both in construction and then daily maintenance?
Okay.
We're up to 10. Okay, so because you only have 10 numbers on your keypad, we can only take these sort of 10 at a time. So if you want to score these, and if we have more, we'll build another slide. Does that sound fair?
But when
Okay.
we come back in 3 months or the next quarter, we will address these and take more.
Okay, give us a moment to get it up. And it's open. Okay.
All right. Go ahead and vote for up to 3 of those.
And it doesn't mean the rest of them are not important. We were just kind of, it's like giving you sticky dots on a flip chart, so we kind of want to see. Everybody in? Okay, so we're looking at use of the top of the unit is an important one. How will it affect, let's see, what do we got here? This is prefer the tank be underground, appearance of the site. Those are the 3 leading ones. Is this enough? Do you want to do this again, or do you want to go on to have questions answered?
All right, we'll come back.
Questions answered.
I think we'll get to questions, and then again, we can always do this exercise again next time. All right, so just for our benefit, how satisfied are you with this particular process of taking some input? Again, we're going to come back and do this some more, and we're trying to get better and better at this. We may not have it perfected yet. Might not ever get it perfected, but we're trying. So if you could just tell us how satisfied you are with this process. All right, a couple more. All right. The mean is pretty close to neutral, so we got quite a spread across there. All right, so at this time, if you had questions and if you've got your note cards, if you could write those down, you can pass them to the middle or raise your hand. We'll collect those and then we'll answer those questions. We hope we've helped you better understand some of the issues that we're facing as a community and some of these projects that are coming up. And again, there's a lot of things you could have done with your time this evening, and I appreciate you coming out. And we'll collect cards this time with questions. While you're writing those or finishing them up, if you want to find out more about the programs that we described, you can call this number on the screen, and your call will be answered 24/7, 365 days a year. Again, here's our website. In a few days, this presentation will be put up on this website, so your friends and neighbors that were unable to attend could also participate in polling at that time as well. All right, questions, cards? I still see some pens moving, so we'll be getting some here shortly.
Can you go back to the map that showed all the overflows in this area, please? I believe it's one of your initial maps.
There we go. Is that it?
Another map that kind of showed the Lexington Road corridor.
The one that showed all the basins?
They're more specific to our neighborhood.
You get one that had Payne CSO.
Yeah, it's got a box like this.
This one and the first one, this one.
Can you get me that? It's going to be quicker than doing this.
Do you have a picture of what basins that have been built look like already?
We'll bring those at the conceptual design meeting. This is just the telling you, this is basically the background of why are we here, and we'll bring those next time.
Like the one over by the zoo that you're building currently, over there on, it's off Nightingale?
Yes.
What is that one gonna look like?
It'd be a below ground basin.
And then how are they gonna finish that one off? Just,
That will have grass on top.
can they grow trees or anything over that one,
We
or?
probably wouldn't put large trees over it, but it'll be green.
Okay, so it'd just be like a little field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is this the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir. So, will this, I know we're in just talking, the
Right.
concept is not drawn yet. Would all these overflows be remedied by the structure you're considering?
As I said, as you know, in the last, 2 years, we've had some of the largest rain events that we've had in the last 30 years. And so the frequency of large storms are coming more and more. We have a design storm for this year that was selected by EPA and then the consent decree we agreed to. So that typical year we're designing to, all of these CSOs would be collected. That 211 million gallons on that particular year would be collected in the basin. Once there's capacity in the system, that would be pumped back into the system for treatment. So that overflow, instead of getting to the creek, would end up at Morris Foreman Treatment Center. Now, there'll be a storm that the first day that it's completed, there'll be a storm larger than that. We will collect until the basin's full, and then what will happen? Well, it'll overflow just like it always has, but we will have collected the millions of gallons that we would have stored at that time.
Can you point on that map exactly where you're proposing this? Just, I think I see where it is.
Okay, you're familiar with East Broadway here, the improved channel and the railroad. Here's Lexington Avenue, and the Old River Metal site is what we're in negotiations on. So that's all in this area right here. We have not purchased that property yet. So I've got some questions here I'll be happy to answer. Will there be an opportunity for reclamation of the Beargrass Creek as part of this project? Well, all these CSOs are where the channel is already improved as concrete. I don't know if the question is talking about taking it back to its original state before concrete. I don't know that.
I mean, in the middle fork, actually, I think that the basin will actually be on that side of the confluence.
You talking about here?
No,
Yes.
right.
I think it will be just to the southeast of that red dot. I thought was where the proposed basin.
This is where the basin site has not been selected other than, Brandon, what is that, a 15 acre site? What's the size? 22 acre site.
Yeah.
So there's.
The creek on that site is not improved.
Right. And as you know, that's a contaminated site. The creek banks are also contaminated, so we're probably going to stay.
They're from, the CSOs are from the improved part, but the basin will be near the, it will be near a natural part of the stream.
Yeah, if we are successful in purchasing that property, it'll be somewhere on that 22 acre site. That's what we'll come back next time, and we will look at alternatives at that time. If you have excess property after construction, will the community have an opportunity to have input on its future use? I think the answer to that is because it's a contaminated site, there will be certain things that we'll be obligated to do in order to do anything on the site. And as far as what's excess after we're done, that would be an MSD and community decision. We certainly don't have any plans for any excess property. We don't need 22 acres when we're done. So I would say that's open to whatever's the best use, what the neighborhood would like to see there, working with the council and the neighborhood. Will there be a loss of trees? If so, is there a plan to plant the area with new trees? How will it look? Where's the exact location of the site? Okay, so a lot of questions there. Again, the site is the 22 acres that we're negotiating with River Metals. That's a site that is contaminated now. There would be some cost to remediating that site. The exact location on that, hopefully we'll come back with some alternatives next time for us to consider. Talk about loss of trees. I guess there are some areas on the property that does not have trees. We'll do everything we can to try to do that, but again, we've talked about who pays for the system at $850 million improvements. If that goes to $1 billion because we're not good stewards or we don't plan right, again, that's just our sewer rates going up. So not saying that that's not a consideration, but we'll look at the economic impacts of everything. And if we do take trees, obviously we would be committed to community input as well as our obligation of putting back some trees in that area where we've taken out. A lot of times when we do basins or any construction, because there's a construction area, there's a temporary easement or temporary construction, a lot of times that area is disturbed. And so obviously we could put back trees in those areas as well. But again, this is early in discussion, and I think we've noted that trees are important and everywhere in the community, and so they would be here as well. So we'll have to address those the best we can, and again, we'll have at least 2 more opportunities to talk about those type of things as we get a little more clearer on the design and the location and have input on that. Have you purchased this property? As I've said, no, we have not. If not, when do you plan to purchase the property? We're in negotiations now, so I'm hoping this first quarter we should know. Can you confirm this will be the site? I think, in my opinion, one way or another, that will be the site. Hopefully we can get that by successfully negotiating. Will the basin be underground? Yes, it will be. There will be a control building, a small control building that'll be above ground. Again, that's something when you look at it, in our design process, you'll be able to have input on that. You know, do you want it to be a cube, a square? What kind of aesthetics can that be? And I think we're open to that, to suggestions on that. But there will be a small control building above ground. What is my role in the project? I am the construction manager for MSD for the capital improvement program, and I'm also the engineering manager for collection systems for which all of these basins fall under. Brandon Flaherty is here. He is the project manager for this particular project. Brandon, raise your hand. So he's key to this project as well. Sorry I didn't make that clear who I was earlier. How to get on a list to get email notice of meetings about proposed CSOs. I've been to several meetings and given my info, but still didn't get notices from MSD. If you will see me after this, we'll get to the bottom of why that's happening. We don't want that. I think you've been out to you were at our Clifton meeting as well, weren't you?
I've been to several meetings, but I still don't get notices.
Okay. We'll look at that.
Neighborhood associations.
What is exact location? That exact location has not been picked out on the 22-acre site. So I can tell you that roughly the underground basin, order of magnitude might be about, it's not quite the size, it's smaller than a football field, smaller than that, but that's very small compared to a 22-acre site. So there's some room on the site to put some things, and we'll look at those alternatives and costs and impacts. What are the status of these projects? Grinstead and I-64, Story in Maine, and Clifton Heights. Clifton Heights, we've reached the final design. Will be bid in it'll be bid in February or March, I believe. So that construction would start this summer at the Clifton Heights Basin. The Story in Maine Basin would be 2017 as well. We'll be having a conceptual design meeting in February or March for Story in Maine. And the Grinstead and I-64 Basin will be next 2017 as well is when we'll start construction on that. So it'll be bid next year. So our next public meeting for Grinstead and I-64 is about when, Rob?
We're going to try the 1st of March.
1st of March for that. So this year, this spring, this quarter, we'll be watching, and we'll make sure you know as well, we'll be having meetings about every month on basins. Sometimes we might have 2 a month. So be watching for those. Those are all the questions I have written on cards. Is there a couple more? They're not all the questions I had on cards. How will this project affect floodplains and floodways, especially in this Lexington Payne area? This is not a localized flood control project. This is the project to keep raw sewage, diluted sewage out of the Beargrass Creek. So to the extent that that particular volume is raising elevations of localized water, I don't see this addressing the flood issues in this area. Not the purpose of this particular project. Why has it taken nearly 7 years, 2009 to 2015-16, for this plan to be enacted? We think about it, it's $850 million. Had we done all the projects in 1 year, which we couldn't have designed and paid for, our rates would have just gone up tremendously the first year. It would have been really unfathomable. But it takes a while to develop these projects. You have to get them in design. We phased them out over the length of the program so that we could have small incremental rates to pay for this rather than to pay for them all at once. John, do you have any other comment on that?
Well, and then the biggest emphasis of it is the first phase of that one slide. We had a lot of people that were like the Beechwood Village where homes were flooded with sewage. So the first phase of the consent decree was to, as much as we can, separate the sanitary flooding and collect those problems.
So we hit some of the most impactful projects at first and the ones that we needed to address from a public health and safety standpoint first. Again, Beechwood Village being a great example of that. Can there be a 10% discount for one stipulation met? For example, 10% discount for a household under $35,000 a year, rather than all three being required for the discount. 20% for 2 of the 3 stipulations. That's a board policy, an MSD policy that's set by our board, not by me or the engineers here. Those are the 3 things that they've come up with, and that is the policy. But we can express to a subcommittee that that's been a question, but I don't set the policy. We just can tell you what the policy is. I think that's all the written questions I have. Again, thank you all for coming out, and look forward to the next meeting when we'll have more details that we can talk about and some more interaction. And please come back, and when you come back, bring neighbors and friends as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have just one question. The MSD's already bought the property for Jim Porter's, right?
We bought the Jim Porter's property, which is near the I-64 and Grinstead Basin project. Jim Porter's happens to be out of the floodplain. The basin will probably be in the floodplain, so if we have a multi-million-dollar project going on there, we needed an area for the contractor to store equipment and materials while he's constructing, or else the cost would have gone through the roof, where every time it rained or it flooded in that area, he'd have to move his equipment out, or he would lose equipment and material. So that's a staging area, and then that will be excess property when we're done. We don't need it for the basin. All right, anything else? Thank you all.